everybody, and welcome to the Dash Trader Newsroom. This is the year-end results for 2024 and a prelude to President Trump's inauguration. Let's jump right in and get started. My name is Michael DeGioia, Director of Educational Services here at Dash Trader, joined by Jill Molandrino, Global Markets Reporter from Nasdaq. Jill, so we started earnings season once again, and JP Morgan and Bank of America came out with some good earnings, some upside surprises. What are the earnings trends that you're going to be watching for this earnings season and in general for the annual report for 2024?
I think people are going to be looking for if there will be a broadening out of performance exclusive of what has been leading the market, which has been the Mag 7 names, let's call it the tech sector more broadly. It's interesting, Mike, we were at CES last week, and you could kind of, it kind of sets the tone for the year when you think about where you are with different stories in this cycle. So it was blockchain. Now we've been talking about AI for 3 years at this point. Now we're seeing these AI concepts being introduced. We were in the vehicle hall, so I'm talking industrial companies, tractor companies, autonomous fire engines, everything is electronified. It's no longer just like what a cool Tesla or BMW is. The point is that with these cycles, once it's now integrated and we're thinking about user experience, you start asking yourself, okay, what's the ROI on all of these investments that have, garnered the attention, right? So we know how the tech sector, chip names in particular, have benefited, certainly cybersecurity names and so forth, and that's been baked in. We think, in fact, we just did a segment on this today with our index team in Invesco, that the story is going to shift to, okay, now we have to show what the ROI looks like on the balance sheet, but let's see what other areas are leveraging this tech and almost look like tech companies in a certain way. So here's a great example. We had Qualcomm on at CES. When you think of Qualcomm, Micron. We had them both, but this is a Micron story specifically. Micron is one of the more heavily traded names on the Nasdaq 100. Let's not call it the largest, but the most heavily. Mike, early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Micron, AMD, but Micron is probably one of the more heavily traded stocks. Probably Tesla has taken over that spot, but you get the point. Micron, their most strategic division now is actually automotive, because of all of the innovation and tech that's being leveraged with AI and data. So now you're thinking, okay, I'm sitting here at CES, John Deere is here, Corning is here, fire engines are here, Caterpillar is here. All of these companies, now that we know that these products are being integrated, are thinking like tech companies now. Mike, this, Google trading jobs, Google digital asset trading jobs or market makers, every single one of them. I don't think I saw an actual trading or market maker position, but everything was related to engineering, software, data, XYZ. So it's everywhere. If you look, you could Google jobs for, not Google, search jobs for any vertical, and the things that always come up first are related to the software side of the house, and the hardware is coming back as well. Absolutely.
No, I think you're right on. So what do you think about earnings trends? Like, what are we watching for the results? We're going to be looking for forward numbers, effects from tariffs, if there's going to be changes in supply chain. What are you looking for? Obviously in 2024, none of these changes have taken place. Is it guidance? Is that something that we're going to be looking at?
I think, again, ROI is going to be the big question here. And I don't think so you know how you listen for the keywords in earnings reports. I don't think you're going to hear ESG. Pandemic is for the most part out of the way. But as it relates to AI, as it relates to ROI, as it relates to data governance, cyber, that's going to be the key things you're going to hear. I think in terms of what guidance looks like, it's challenging for your CFOs and your operators. You don't know what your tax or tariff situation is going to look like. Hopefully with the AI tools that we have now, they're able to run multiple scenarios to see what that looks like. But I think the companies that operated really well in 21, 22, which were challenging environments, will probably be the ones that continue to operate well and have decent balance sheets, regardless of what the environment is like. But I would imagine that forecasting is going to be a challenge for a couple of reasons. One, we haven't even started the administration yet, so there is no 100 days to bench. There is no policy that's been executed, and the key word there is execution. It's one thing to talk about on the campaign trail. It's one thing to hear what they're saying in the Senate confirmations or what's being espoused on Twitter and other social media. It's going to be the execution of what these proposed policies look like. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good. I think it probably is going to play out more in the first quarter. So we're kind of we're taking a picture of the past in 2024. Really, this is, basically the entire, 2024 was in the Biden administration. You're going to see how those changes get implemented in the next earnings season. This one is more about what happened in 2024.
Right. But Mike, that's typical of any first quarter, which is fourth quarter earnings, right? I mean, you could wrap up the year, you could give guidance in what you expect over the next 12 months, but it doesn't matter if it's a new administration or not. It's always going to be like that. Looking forward in third quarter to fourth quarter is easier than first quarter to fourth quarter. Quarter. That's why options are more expensive the longer they go out, because it's harder to make that determination. So even if, I think of course, the other question is too, the momentum, can that performance keep up? Will it broaden out? I mean, up 30%, what's average? I don't even know what you consider average anymore, but 8%, we have, usually have these ebbs and flows. We haven't had that in nearly, 10, 15 years, with the exception of some extreme dips. But that's the question, momentum. And, like any first quarter, it's easier to predict a quarter out than 3 quarters out.
Absolutely. Well, we did, but 2 things I wanted to ask, and this is kind of, we had some clamor. I guess it was the CEO of NVIDIA, and then it was Mark Zuckerberg talking about quantum computing, and that quantum computing is not quite as quantum as we thought it would be currently, but it might take some more time to come to fruition. And then all the quantum computing CEOs came out saying, no, we're there. It's going to be a big game changer right away. What is your thought on quantum computing before we jump into electric vehicle sales?
So it's interesting. And you and I have spoken about this a number of times. I can tell when things become really buzzy. 2018, all my pitches were about blockchain. For 2022, everyone has an AI story, right? I've been getting pitched on quantum definitely way more in 2024 than I have before. Part of that is because I do cover digital assets extensively, and they're quantum computing is sort of related to the cryptographic nature of that, which of course are digital assets are based on. I think this is part of the reason why not everything is about software anymore. It's about hardware and software. Hardware is coming back into favor because quantum includes hardware research and development as well as application development. It's interesting. I've heard that in 5 to 8 years, it's going to be something that we are living with. And how fast these cycles happen, as we've seen over the past couple of years. But the point is that these investments need to start now. The operational tech stacks are not easy to build out. And quantum, as I understand it, and I'm not a physics comp sci person by any stretch, but it's more about the behavior and patterns and predictability around it, to help researchers understand whether it's diseases or more complicated math or technical applications and so forth. So it's kind of combining what we think we know about behavior and predictability and physics and patterns on a more advanced level.
So it's really, really super advanced pattern recognition.
As best as I understand it or could explain it.
Yeah. Well, that's about as, I mean, like you and I, we talk about various topics, but we're certainly not experts in them.
Right. Well, essentially, it's like you're going to start hearing the words more complex simulations. And we have had that. We've covered it, and how these simulations and parallel calculations is another phrase that you'll be hearing. How do systems react to those conditions, right? So if we are in the world of leveraging, again, how it's been explained to me and how I think I understand it, AI, agentic AI is the next thing that we're going to be really familiar with. And apps might be a thing of the past now that you have agents that are, going to be doing all this work for you. But simulations and understanding and like the physics behind it is the next iteration of that is
Yeah.
how I think it's going to be.
Yep. Yeah, just like years ago, you would be sitting there writing tons and tons of code, but now you can have kind of AI generate lots of the code for you, and then you have to just kind of be more of the designer. And AI does, like, even in designing artwork, right? AI can design some artwork for you instead of you having a graphic designer that you're utilizing for some of that artwork design, or the graphic designer is coordinating AI to do the design work for them, meaning that the graphic designer has kind of been a AI graphic designer coordinator. It's like one step above our current level of computing, where it cross collateralizes all the computing. You think that's it, or am I off here?
Can you explain the question again? I'm not clear.
Quantum computing is kind of utilizing doing very advanced computations to cross reference various different fields of data so that they can do deep analysis with different fields. Is that really what they were talking about
I would
in
say
quantum computing?
it's leverages multiple disciplines, not specific just to tech, but again, the physics side of the equation is what is allowing these massive computer systems to perform calculations and what are called
And
simulations.
simulations, yeah.
Right. So simulations is the key word here. I don't know. I can't talk about the hardware part of it, like the quantum bits
Yeah.
or anything like that. That I don't know. But the premise is to um, using these predictive sciences and technology is to almost help better to plan, right? Because we do
Yes.
simulations. The whole point is
Yep.
to look for the best outcome for planning. So
Yep.
at a high level, that's what these are.
Got it. Well, let's jump on to electric vehicles. That we got some numbers from the U.S. electric vehicle market, where it says that
Yep.
we've reached historic levels. 20% of the American market is now electric vehicles. Although I would say that according to these numbers, 1.9 million were actually hybrid vehicles, and then only 1.3 million were completely electric. Now, the interesting thing to me was that Tesla's market share had dropped from 55% of the electric vehicle market down to 49%, with the of the rest of the market share pretty much being split up between just about 9% for General Motors, 7.5 for Ford Motors, and then BMW topping out I left off Kia, which was 9.3 actually. So we got 9.3 for Kia, General Motors at 8.7, Ford at 7.5, and BMW at 4.1. So we're seeing a big diversification in EV vehicles, but we're still also seeing that there's a tremendous amount of hybrid vehicles, actually more hybrid vehicles being sold than full electric vehicles. What are your thoughts overall on the EV vehicle market going into the Trump presidency as well? I mean, it's an interesting one. So
Yeah, and I agree with you. I would say the electronification of the vehicle market in general is really what the story is, whether you're talking about um, auto innovation, whether you're talking about safety innovation. That's really the conversations that this has been focused around at CES in particular. And again, I cover this every year. This really was an outstanding year, not in terms of, besides in terms of attendance, but what it looked like from last year to this year when we go from concept to integration, and how AI is leveraged. And I don't keep saying AI, but these predictive technologies are leveraged everywhere
mhm.
to improve innovation in vehicles throughout the board. That was more of the story versus. And honestly, we used to be what we are in that automation in the automotive slash vehicle hall, and it used to just be like EVs in there. Um, there were some in there, but they were featuring the different parts of the systems of the car or the safety systems or what they're doing with mirrors and glass and efficiency and automation
Mhm.
versus market share. I mean, you didn't even discuss that kind of stuff there, market share or different models and so forth.
Yeah.
That's almost an afterthought. I don't even think we discussed it at all. But it was more about the different OEMs and the suppliers and how they are working, together to create these cars in the future. I will say, whether it's EVs or any new technology, it's all about scale, production, supply chain, and affordability. You could have as many products as you want out there, but you need it at scale, you need it affordability, you need the infrastructure in place. And I think the industry is coming to a consensus with that.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps the pendulum will swing the other way from being down as much as they have been. You have to remember that some automakers cut down on the budgets or on the divisions where resources were allocated to.
Yep.
So there's that also.
Very, very interesting. I personally, I'd love to have a car that doesn't have a microchip in it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing that they say something that the average car today has over 200 microchips in it. Because you
Oh, way
mentioned that.
more than that.
Yeah.
But see, here's the whole thing, and then this is what's interesting. So the backup cameras, as an example, I think have made life a lot easier. I'm not the one to parallel
Absolutely.
park. Okay, but think about it this way. They're now mandatory in every car, just like airbags and seatbelts.
Yeah.
Those backup cameras, guess what? That was an innovation at CES at
That's
some
right.
point.
That's
And
right.
what they're working on now is improving the technologies in the mirrors themselves, cameras in different parts of the car that will monitor your biometrics to make sure you're either focused or you're, in I know it exists already, but either in the right lane, but just getting more nuanced with what they can do with biometrics, your eyes, your body position, all of that to improve safety, since autonomous vehicles are starting, to become more ubiquitous, if you will. I mean, it's in LA
Mm-hmm.
and San Francisco already. And while it feels like there's cameras and everything always on you, this is what helps to improve safety. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and unfortunately you don't have a choice. I mean, there's no way to be completely off the grid, if you will.
Yeah.
It's a
I guess.
catch 22.
Yeah, absolutely. But just amazing how many microchips, and it was interesting to hear that Micron is selling mainly to the car makers. I mean, that's a
Qualcomm is
very
another one.
interesting.
The auto vehicle, let's call it vehicle, not auto, because it wasn't just specific to autos. NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Micron technology was mentioned. NVIDIA was probably mentioned in every single interview for the most part that we did. So, we had a couple of our, Qualcomm, Micron, Nasdaq 100 listed companies on, but, other Nasdaq listed companies, being able to say that they've partnered with NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Micron on deploying their technologies. It was really cool, Mike, to see how this ecosystem works, where you have the Nasdaq 100 leadership, right? And then you have, your other tech and automotive companies listed on Nasdaq, all
Mhm.
leveraging the same technology. Then we had our index team there. So it just told the whole story
Yep.
of these companies that invest so much in R&D. And if you look at the past 10 years, where's the outperformance and the growth? Nasdaq
Mhm.
100 tech companies. And this is
Absolutely.
why.
Yep. Very, very good points. Let's jump into, we have the inauguration this Monday. Any insights into the market reaction? I mean, pretty much, we've kind of just been kind of holding in a holding pattern here. We had a couple of days up. Today's looking like it's shaping up to be a down day. There's most of the proposed changes, have they already been factored in? Do you have any insight into potential surprises or what we can expect for the first 100 days in office? Having been through numerous presidential changes, what are your thoughts for the first 100 days, especially going into Trump the sequel?
Right. Well, it's interesting. We're off for Martin Luther King,
Yes.
right? So I don't recall if we were off for the last inauguration. I don't recall being off. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so there's not going to be an immediate US markets reaction as if we were all, on the desk and the algos were all fired up at once, right?
Yep.
So I think for the first 100 days, I actually, let me step back for a moment. I think the inauguration itself will probably be one of the most watch anticipated events for a number of reasons, just because of
Mhm.
the profiles of the people that will be attending. For the most part, the general public is familiar with many of these names relative to, just the DC politician set, right? People are tuning in to see what Musk does, and who's there from Trump's family and who's not showing up from what politicians aren't showing up. So I think it's going to be like an event to watch, if you will. I think executive orders will certainly get executed quicker than any legislation that's going to come out. You and I have discussed this before, that we had the most impotent session of Congress last year with only 27 bills turned into law, the lowest since the Great Depression.
Yeah.
But now that we don't have any division there, and it's all within the same party, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be a sell the news kind of event because of all the variables. Perhaps not everything is priced in there. For example, when they had the congressional hearing today, and we're not going to have a stable coin. What was, I forget the exact quote, right? Where is it? During the I'm losing my train of thought here. That they weren't going to have, what was it called?
The digital currency.
Yeah, they weren't going to have the government create a central bank digital currency. Tongue twister. And we cover digital assets frequently here. I wonder if it's more a case of if the private sector is getting this right when it comes to CBDCs, and there's a perception the government might not understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why. I don't know. It's reading in between the lines. Honestly, I wasn't listening to the whole thing, only because doing hits in between. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's probably a talking point more than anything else.
Yeah.
And here's the one thing I want to say about 2.0, right? We've had 4 years in between administrations for Trump. I think for him, that was strategic. If we know anything from 1.0, Trump and his administration benches themselves on the economy, the stock market, and leadership. He wants to lead in digital assets and keep our leadership in global capital market space. He certainly wants to lead in AI and technology from a national security perspective, and just for leadership in general. This is something he has, winning is his thing. And I think the general mood of the country is, okay, enough with the talking points. We've got to come to some sort of, policy here.
Absolutely. I mean, they're looking for, he's saying he's going for one big bill to make as many changes as possible.
Well, did you see what happened when they cut down that 500-page bill, right, to keep the government open?
Oh, yeah,
that didn't go well.
It did not. Yeah, it didn't come out at all, right? I mean, and it didn't get what he was looking for. So it's going to be typical. He says he's known for the art of the deal. So I guess we're going to see what kind of deal gets cut in the very early days here. So
yeah.
But it should be interesting nonetheless. Thank you very much for your insights as always, Jill, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, see you. Take care, Mike.
All right, so we have here we have our market. I'm just going to do a very quick overview of our, using my Dash Trader here. I have Tesla up on the screen, but I'm going to bring up the S&P, SPY. So we've had 3 days up. Today we got a little bit of a reversal day, but to me, this looks like we're forming a bull flag kind of formation. This is the flagpole here, and this is kind of a flag formation. There you go, is the flag. So we do kind of have a flag formation forming. Let's take a look at the QQQ, Nasdaq 100. I mean, I think the flag formation here is clear as day. I would, depend. I mean, you could also say that this is a sell setup. So we're either going to trigger on the bull flag and break through the top of the flag formation, or we're going to kind of trigger on this sell setup, which is up bar, break of prior low. I think that we're going to get a good indication of which way we're going to go tomorrow, Friday, before the holiday. The gap up on the Dow Jones Industrial Average was really significant today. We kind of gapped above our major moving averages. That's certainly telling. Let's take a look at MSFT. Here is Microsoft, kind of stuck in a range. Apple had been selling off. It's, it was really kind of leading the market down. Now obviously Apple had been outperforming the market, and now it's kind of come back to its base area. Meta, really looking like a bull flag formation. I would say not a bull flag, but more like an equilateral triangle. So we got to see where Meta shapes up. It is consolidating, so it could go either direction, but we got to see where that breaks out. Tesla, as we had mentioned, did just have a really good day on that EV data. Day 2 is an inside bar pattern, so that could also go either way. However, Tesla had been riding its moving averages up, which is bullish, and now is kind of stuck within its moving averages. The interesting one is GLD. Gold has been on the upswing, but it's kind of hitting into resistance here. And GBTC, Bitcoin, has kind of moved back up to the top of its range. So on that note, I'm going to end the market analysis section. Jill and I went a little long today. So stay up to date with all things DAS by signing up for our monthly newsletter. Simply fill out the form at the bottom of our webpage at www.dastrader.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dash Trader TV and our newsroom reminders by hitting the little bell. And follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we'll see you in 2 weeks after the inauguration. Trade well, everybody.